I'm here with Jen Walker, co-head women's volleyball coach at Wartburg College. Jen, tell me your story. What brought you to Central College as a student athlete, and when did you know that you wanted to be a collegiate coach?
Okay, well, ironically, Central College kind of came to me in the fact of I have a twin sister, and we followed our cousin, Brett Clayburgh. We watched all of his football games. We went down to Central. He was a really good athlete in high school. They won a couple state titles, and we're like, we want to keep watching him. So we would ride down with our aunt and uncle and make him chocolate chip cookies every single weekend. I think it got to be a bit much, but that's what got us to Central. I mean, we just went there, and that's the only college we ever visited. We didn't even go anywhere else. She didn't, I didn't. We just went to Central, and that's what got us there. And we loved sports. We were both four-sport athletes. And couldn't imagine going to college without doing sports. And so we both did volleyball and softball. And then my sister was an pre-optometry major. And she said, I'll step back from the softball because the labs and whatever are a little bit tougher than my PE major. So yeah, that's how we got to Central. We loved it. We never regretted our decision to do Division III. We were actually asked to go check out a school down in Georgia from a USA volleyball camp we had gone to. A coach was there, and then they actually used the money. It was a startup, a pioneer program, and they used the money for something else, and they never got the program going, which was, I'm sure they have by now. But because of that, we were like, well, that's an easy choice. We're going to Central.
That's great. And at what point during your college career did you decide you wanted to coach collegiately?
That's a good question. I mean, I got to do coaching with my softball coach for elementary grades when I was in high school. I loved it. I came back, even at Central, came back in the summers and worked for him. And kind of like, I really want to do this. This is what I really have a passion for this. I learned from those coaches. I had great coaches, volleyball, softball. And I learned the things I wanted to do and things that they were great at that I tried when I got to be a college coach and didn't work for me because it's a different personality. But, I got to do some high school coaching while I was getting my master's degree. And that's where I knew I wanted to be. I love sports, and I couldn't imagine stepping away from that.
It seems to be how a lot of us end up getting into it. So you got to experience both volleyball and softball. What brought you to Wartburg and chose you to stick to volleyball?
So I was coaching. I had 1 year I coached out in Michigan, just south of Lansing. It's Olivet College, really small, really small. And I came into a program with 11 athletes, and that's all I had. And okay, so here we go. And so that was the first experience that I was out there, and the job opening came for Wartburg. And I was also coaching softball as an assistant at that time. And I thought, I missed the deadline. And somehow or another, Meg Clayburgh, who was my former volleyball coach at Central, had reached out to me. Now, she married my cousin, Brett, that we watched. So there's a connection there. And so she said, Jen, you need to apply for this. And I'm like, I missed the deadline. She goes, I know Monica Severson. I can help you out. I'll put a good word for you. She goes, get your stuff in. I'm like, okay. Because I knew I didn't want to be at Olivet forever. I wanted to get back to Iowa. And I thought, well, this would be too far out of my league. Like, I just wasn't ready yet. So I gave it over and set my stuff over, and I was able to get an interview with them. And that night they offered it to me, and I couldn't find any reason to say no. So I absolutely said yes. And that's how I got to Wartburg. And I knew it was a volleyball, softball assistant, right? So that was my job. And I was really fortunate because the volleyball coach that had been there previously, Robin Baker at Wartburg, was still there because she was the softball coach. So she could help me if I had questions with volleyball. But the whole decision between volleyball and softball, I think I came in as the head coach for volleyball. So that was the job that was open. So I stuck with that. But I'll tell you what, it's cold in the spring outside. And that was, I'm not kidding, a part of my decision as well. I'm like, yeah, the climates in the gym are pretty regular. So I decided to go with volleyball. And that's how I got to that point.
That is a true statement with the cold weather in the spring. It's very unpredictable. In volleyball, you always know what you get.
Absolutely. For the most part.
For the most part, right. And then You've had a lot of success in your time at Wartburg and with the conference. So in addition to your 2 national championships you won with Central with softball, what has been your favorite memory in your time with the conference?
Wow. So I guess I'd have to flash back to two opportunities. One at Central as a student, and I'll be honest, it was our women's basketball team. My senior year in 1993 hosted the national Final Four in the gym, and I think as a student, not even as a student athlete at that point, but as a fan, oh my gosh, it was the most exciting thing we'd have happen on our campus. The place was packed, and we won the title, and that was amazing. And then that same year was one of my senior year, we won also the softball title, but that wasn't in our home court or on our home field. But I'd also say that the time that was just last year, I honestly will say, because we had an opportunity to host regionals, and while that is an NCAA thing, it's also a conference thing, because we were able to have that kind of support from our fans. And, there's nothing like D3 fans, because they know the student athletes. They know them from sitting next to them in classrooms. And I love that fact. And I mean, we did it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And unbeknownst to anything, I don't know who organized it, but our athletes or our fans came in. One night was white, one night was black, one night was orange. And they were there. And that was really impressive. Even when the football team had a football game they had to go play in, we were still there. So I think that's the best part, is just having that environment that D3 offers, and that the people that know each other from their time outside of the gym, it's in the classroom and in the dorms and that sort of thing.
I think the environment's something a lot of people sometimes that are on the outside looking in don't realize how special it is at a D3 standpoint, but during regionals and national championships and playoff runs like that, it's definitely pretty cool to see how many fans come and almost the entire school's there.
Absolutely. Well, and I'd also say most of our fans are probably other athletes, right? So they understand how hard it is to get to that level. And so when they see their own classmates and people that go to Wartburg, I mean, they want to be a part of that too. And even if it's just as a fan, and that kind of like I was when as a student, the same thing, you want to be there and be a part of it.
Absolutely. And then just one final question. We're celebrating our 100-year anniversary. So what most excites you about the conference in the future?
Well, I think part of it is, I think our administration looks toward how can we grow the conference. I think that's a good thing, not for travel, but I think it's a good thing for our conference. I mean, I think our conference with 9 is great. I'd love to have an even number. Then we don't have bye weeks and things like that. We're able to continue to compete every week against conference teams. But I'd say, I'm really, I think that's probably the biggest point. But the other thing I do like too is the push forward as far as like promoting women in sports. I think that's something great that our conference is doing. I think the SAC committees have done an excellent job, and that's a great way to get student athletes involved with the part of the administration and looking for themselves on how they can help make a difference. So I think there's some really good pieces that are going together that's helping growing our conference. And being in the middle of the country, I think is also another great thing, because we have the opportunities to travel to other conferences and tournaments and things like that. And we're not having to go from one coast to another coast. We can get there in a decent amount of time if we want to do that. So I think I'm proud to be part of the Iowa conference and the ARC. But I think that these students coming through have a bigger picture in mind, and they're able to bring that focus into our conference.
That's great. I appreciate you saying that about the conference, and we appreciate all your commitment to the league after all of these years.
Absolutely.